Time for Trivia Tracks with me, Price Robertson, sponsored by Beth Smith and Edward Jones and ProMed Ambulance Services. By the 1960s, espionage had become the hottest thing in Hollywood, owing to the enormous success of the James Bond movies. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. hit the TV airwaves in 1964, but it wasn't long before producer Michael Garrison decided to come up with the idea of a show that blended the once popular Western genre with spies and science fiction. The Wild Wild West was just that, premiering September 17th, 1965. Robert Conrad starred as Jim West, an employee of the Secret Service under President Ulysses S. Grant. Ross Martin co-starred as West's sidekick Artemis Gordon. West was a dapper ladies' man, Gordon, a brilliant gadgeteer and a proficient master of disguises. The show featured a number of fantasy elements, such as the technologically advanced devices used by the agents and their adversaries, especially the dwarf Dr. Miguelito Lovelace, played by Michael Dunn, who appeared as Lovelace in 10 episodes during the show's run. The combination of the Victorian-era time frame and the use of Vernian technology has led observers to cite the show as a pioneering influence on steampunk. The title of each episode begins with The Night, except for Night of the Casual Killer in the first season, which omitted the definite article. This followed other idiosyncratic naming conventions established by shows such as Wagon Train, where nearly every episode was titled The Name Story or The Story of Name. Rawhide, in which the majority of episode titles began with the word incident, and the aforementioned Man from U.N.C.L.E., whose episodes were titled The Blank Affair. Speaking of Wagon Train, Robert Horton, who starred in the first 5 seasons of that show, was one of several actors who auditioned for the role of Jim West. Others included Rory Calhoun, Ray Danton, and Skip Ward. In the end, Robert Conrad, who claimed to be the 17th actor to test, got the part. Ross Martin once called his role as Artemis Gordon a show-off's showcase, because it allowed him to portray over 100 different characters during the course of the series and perform dozens of different dialects. Martin sketches ideas for his characterizations and worked with a makeup artist to execute the final look. The first season of the series, which was darker in tonality, was dominated by a succession of producers, including John Matley, later the driving force behind Gunsmoke in its later years, Fred Freiberger, and Collier Young, who is credited with having added the second Wild in the series title, as the show had been called The Wild West in its early stages of production. In an interview, Young said he saw the series as The Rogues set in the 1870s. The Rogues, which he had produced and had just been cancelled, was about con men who swindled swindlers, much like the 1970s series Switch. His shows featured a butler named Tennyson, played by Charles Davis, but since the episodes were not shown in production order, the character popped up at different times during the first season. After just 3 episodes, Young was forced out. Fred Freiberger, Young's replacement, returned the series to its original concept. After Freiberger's departure, 2 more producers would come and go. John Matley, who eventually returned to Gunsmoke, and writer Gene Kuhn. In 1966, the show made the leap from black and white to color. Series creator Michael Garrison, who had produced the pilot, resumed producing chores at the close of the first season, but died from a fall shortly afterward. Bruce Lansbury, brother of Angela Lansbury, replaced Garrison as showrunner. Another unique element of the series was the animated main title sequence, which was then utilized for commercial breaks. Owing to the success of Batman, the Wild Wild West became campier in tone during its second season. The third season became more of a traditional Western, much like the Collier Young produced episodes from the first season. For the fourth season, outrageous villains were again used, but without the comic book effect 2 seasons earlier. During this season, Ross Martin suffered a heart attack and took some time off. Charles Aidman filled in, playing the role of Jeremy Pike. Other fill-ins followed, including Gilligan's Island alumnus Alan Hale Jr. Martin returned late in the season. By this time, Congress was feeling uneasy over violence on TV. CBS made the decision not to renew the Wild Wild West, which became known for its fight sequences, for a 5th season, even though the show still performed well in the ratings. Reruns would air during the summer of 1970. In 1979, Robert Conrad and Ross Martin reunited for the made-for-TV movie The Wild Wild West Revisited, which tended to be campier than the original series, as did the sequel More Wild Wild West in 1980, although Conrad and Martin played their role straight. In the latter TV movie, Jim West grew a mustache. According to Conrad, the success of the 2 telemovies caused CBS to plan yearly TV revivals of the Wild Wild West. Ross Martin's death in 1981, however, put an end to the idea. Since then, the show has remained a favorite in syndication. During the 1990s, TNT reran the series, usually airing the color episodes. Late in the decade, a feature film version was released, starring Will Smith and Kevin Kline, but was not a box office hit.
Till next time, I'm Price Robertson. Amazed by today's trivia? Then join me for Trivia Tracks weekdays at 6:45 on Everybody's Country Y95.